authorities have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the... Concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Evening everybody, and welcome to this week's Scan Pro Audio webcast, which we're very excited about because we've got the very lovely Luke Edwards back with us, and he's brought a whole collection of beautiful synths from Korg, the new Volca series and the MS-20 as well. I usually start off with news items and things. I thought I'd start with the personal one this week. I picked up a pair of Fluid Audio's F4 monitors, and these are great for comparison mixes. They come in at under 125 quid, and I was frankly bowled over when we heard them upstairs here at Scan, but even better when I put them in my studio. They're absolutely superb, and anyone wanting a set of monitors which can just, as I say, use as a comparison, just to flick between, I can't recommend them highly enough. LN number 53131 for those of you that are interested. Okay, we're going to cut some titles. When we come back, we got Luke and all his Korg goodies.
Hello everyone, Luke Edwards here from Korg. I've got some amazing stuff to show you today. We're very excited to show these. First of all, we've got the MS-20 Mini. So this is the reissue of our classic analog synth, the MS-20 from 1978. Reissued in slightly mini form. It's 86% of the size, with the addition of MIDI and USB on there as well. And of course, we've got the Volcas as well. So there's 3 models of these. They're all purely analog gear. So you've got the Volca Beats, which is a drum machine. You've got the Volca Bass, which is a bass, and the Keys, which is everything else basically in the synth world. So we're going to start off with the Volca Beats, I think, and yeah. So let's have a listen. So it's an analog drum machine, and it's very hands-on. All the controls are there right in front of me. I've got this strip along the bottom, and what that enables me to do in live mode is play all the different instruments we've got in there. So we've got some analog instruments and a few PCM, or what we call sample-based instruments as well, which we'll get onto in a moment. So what's nice is that we have individual edit sections for all of the analog drums. So for instance, if we start off with a kick, and I can play the kick here, I can edit that sound. So I can change things like the pitch, so I can tune it down or tune it up. I can change the click, so that's basically how much attack there is to the sound. So you can have a really snappy kind of sound with a lot of click, or a kind of softer sound. And of course the decay as well. So that's how long the sound rings out for. So you can have that nice long kind of 808 style decay if you want to. And the same goes for these other instruments as well. So we've got the snare. So you've got a parameter on the snare called snappy. So it's almost like on an acoustic snare, turning off the snare and then turning it on again. You can change the pitch. So you've got a wide range of pitch there. And you can also again change the decay. So you can have something very clipped and short, or something that rings out. And what's nice, when you play the actual instrument, it gives you a representation of on here which one you're actually playing. Same goes for the low tom and the high tom. So low pitch, high pitch, and again decay. So you can have it really ringing out or clipped again. And then of course you've got your hats as well. Decay on the open and closed. So you can really tweak and fine tune the sounds exactly as you need. And you've also got a parameter here called grain, which alters the pitch as well. So that's your analog drum sounds. And as well as that, you've got some sample based, or PCM ones as they're called here. So we've got hand claps. And each of these can be adjusted with this PCM speed. So what that's doing is it's adjusting how quickly the sample is being played back. So therefore it adjusts the pitch. So you have a massive range of each one. The go-go, and you crash as well. So that's your sounds. So what's great about the Volca Beats though is it has a sequencer in it as well. So you have 8 pre-programmed patterns in the memory, and of course you can make your own and save those in. So let's just have a listen to one of those. So you can see all the lights flashing. They signify which parts are being played. I can change the tempo, and just give me a nice readout on the screen there of what the tempo is. And it's great because I can actually adjust these sounds on the fly as well. So you can tweak as it's playing. Of course, it's great to be able to record your own patterns as well. So there's 2 ways to do that. The first one is step mode. So at the moment we're in live mode, which means I'm playing all of these instruments live basically. But if I press step mode, what that allows me to do is to use these pads, instead of being the instrument sounds, they're now steps within the 16 steps. So what I'm going to do is go function clear all, and I'm going to clear the current pattern. So now when I press play, there's no sound. So it's up to me now to step in the different parts, and I can part across to my kick drum, put in some steps. So wherever I want my kick drum, I can put them. You can see it scrolling through the pattern. And then it's just a simpler case of going to my next part, which is snare. Put in the parts. I can also paint in patterns like that, which is really nice. Just bring in and out parts as I need to. So that's one way of recording, but the other way, you can actually record live as well. So I can set it playing. I'm back in live mode now. It's not recording at the moment, so I can just try out ideas. So once I'm ready to record, just hit record. And it automatically snaps it to the 16th, so you don't have to worry too much about playing bang in time. Let's put a clap in. What you can also do is you can use this part level, which is really nice, so you can actually adjust the mix between all the different instruments. So if I part across to say the kick, I can adjust just the kick level. I can also mute any parts I want, just by holding down mute and take in and out parts at will. So that's the beauty of the Volca Beats really, it's just so easy and hands-on to make patterns. Everyone's familiar with this kind of 16-step drum machine kind of pattern making. Another really cool feature is this over here. This is called stutter. And you have two parameters, you have time and you have depth. So what this does is it's like a kind of analog style delay kind of unit built in, but you can use it in different ways. So if I just start it off and bring it in, you'll hear what it does. So I can get it to delay, but that's quite messy at the moment because that's applied to all parts. And that's because we have a parameter on here called global stutter. What I can do though is I can turn it off, and then I can apply this stutter to whichever parts I want. So say for instance I wanted to just apply it to the snare, I can do that. So you can get those little ghost note type things going on, depending on the time. So that's the time is down low. Or you can do that sort of stuff. It's like a triplet feel. One great thing about all the Volcas is that they have MIDI in as well. So at the moment I'm not using that. Obviously I'm just using everything and doing everything on the unit. But I could, if I wanted to, plug in a different keyboard, which I'm going to do in a minute with the bass, and obviously trigger the sounds that way. But crucially, you can route MIDI from your DAW, say, so a program that you're using, say using Ableton for example. You can feed that then through here. So you're actually programming the pattern in Ableton, so you can apply other stuff you might want to do like swing and other stuff which you can't do on the Beats for example. Fire it in MIDI and then you're getting all the access to all these amazing analog drum sounds via your DAW of choice. So that's the Beats. Now I'm going to move on to the bass. So the bass looks very similar, different colour, silver this time, mimicking another very famous bass machine. And it's kind of different though, the way it works. So whereas before here obviously we have our drum sounds, these now become notes. So I can play a scale using this strip. I can adjust the octave using the octave. I can also use that octave to do these kind of sweeps, which are quite popular in the use of this kind of instrument for sweeping through bass lines, which we'll get onto in a moment. So I've got it MIDI'd here to my Korg XL Plus. So the MIDI side of it works perfectly. It's a channel 1, or you can change it if you want to. But by default it's channel 1, so it should just pretty much work whatever you plug it into. So I've got that MIDI'd up. And it's a bass synth, so I'll just talk you through the different parameters we can change. I've showed you the octave, but the octave only works when you're playing on this keyboard here. If I use the octave here, it's not triggering because I need to shift the octave at source, which I can do if I want to. Then you've got, of course, the VCF, the filter. So we've got a cut-off and a peak control. So that's the cut-off. You've got a nice large filter knob as well, so you can control it very easily. Then you've got your peak as well for resonance. So that introduces high frequencies. And try not to blow your speakers at home. So you can have that adjusted how you like. You've also got an LFO, so you can adjust the rate and the intensity. So you can use that. And then at the top there you've got an envelope, and this envelope works on 2 levels. By default it affects the envelope for the filter. So you can get the filter to open as you control it, like that. But you've also along the bottom here got lots of different functions which you can turn on and off. And one of those is amp envelope on, so you can actually apply that to the whole envelope as well. So if you want a really slow attack to the sound as a whole rather than just the filter, you can do that as well. Other things you can apply down here, there's some really cool things, like for instance the LFO target. So it's set to cut off at the moment, but you can set it to pitch or amp, so you can get that kind of wavering of pitch, or you can get a tremolo kind of effect with amp. You can also adjust the waveforms. So at the moment we're listening to one of the 3 VCOs, or the oscillators. So oscillator 1, which is this one, at the moment is a saw wave. If I wanted to change that to a square wave, I can just go function there. Now we've got a square wave. So it's very easy to quickly switch between those. So that's a square wave. And a saw wave. You've got 3 oscillators, as you said. At the moment you're only hearing one of them. So let's turn on all 3. So everyone's nodding now. That really beefs up the sound. And what you have are individual controls over those. So pitch 1, 2 and 3 relate to the pitch of the 3 oscillators. So pitch 1, for example, I can go down the octave, or I can just slightly offset it so you get that detuned sound. Pitch 2 I'll leave in the middle. Pitch 3 I'll take that slightly sharp. So that's a commonly used technique in synthesis. Say if you've got 3 waveforms like this, you'll leave one in the middle, one might be slightly flat, one might be slightly sharp, and then you get that lovely kind of detuned sound. But you can do other stuff as well. So once you go a bit further, you can go down an octave, for instance, to give it a deeper sound. So there's lots of possibilities with these different VCOs. Just like on the Beats, we've got a sequencer inside as well. So if I hit play there, it should play a pattern for me. I've actually got it synced to the Beats here. They've all got sync in and out, and they come with the cables. So you just go sync out of the Beats if you want to use that as your master, for example, into the bass, and then tempo-wise, they sync together. So if I wanted to make my own pattern, my bass pattern, I can go function again, clear. Now again, there's nothing in there. So I can either use the keys or I can use the ribbon. So let's get the tempo, hit record. So as you can see, I can embellish that as well in real time over the top, should I want to. Or if I hit record there, that would record my bass pattern. So let's get it going again. So just so easy to make a really, really cool and fat sounding pattern. And again, because you've got MIDI in, you've got all the benefits of obviously playing from a keyboard or sequencing externally as well, which I think is the way a lot of people are going to be using these Volcas. So finally, we've got the Volca Keys. So this is the third in the family. So this one again is a little bit different. This is actually a 3-part polyphonic synth. So it's like the bass, it's got 3 oscillators, but it's a little bit more flexible because it has different modes in how you can use the different oscillators. So that's all down to this knob here on the top left. So you've got different ways you can use it. So let's take out the MIDI of here and put it into the keys so I can play it. So at the moment we're in poly mode, which means I can play, if I want to, up to 3 notes. Or you've got unison mode, where it'll sum the 3 oscillators together. Turn that portamento off. There we go. What's nice about that is you have a detune control. So much the same as I was doing sort of manually on the bass here, this automatically will drag those 3 oscillators apart pitch-wise. So if you keep going, you can go from that, which is all completely in tune, to something very detuned. You've got octave as well, so that puts the oscillators an octave apart. You've got fifth, which puts them a fifth apart. You've got unison ring, which is a ring modulator, so it's got a real metallic kind of distorted sound. Again, nice whether you apply the detune. And you've also got polyphonic ring as well, which enhances the ring modulator depending on how many notes you play. So if you play a single one, it's a little bit, 2 together, or 3 together, and it really enhances it a lot. So I'm going to leave it in unison mode here. What this one does is basically change the pitch of this ribbon control. Again, if you're playing MIDI keyboard, this is what determines the pitch. So if you have a long keyboard, a 61 note or even an 88 note, you'll be able to play the whole range, obviously without having to shift octaves. It's quite nice. So you've got portamento, which you briefly heard earlier. So what that does is it applies some glide between notes. Got your filter with cut off and peak. And similar to the bass, you've got LFO. So you can set the rate, and then you set the intensity of the destination that you want, whether that's pitch or whether it's cutoff. So that's the pitch or the filter. So you can have something slowly evolving like that, or something like that. Then you've got your envelope. So this is EG stands for envelope generator, and you've got the attack, decay, release, and sustain of the sound. So attack, decay, and release. So you can have a longer release, and also your sustain. So you can have a very kind of short sound. Step sequencer again, so press play. Again, they're all synced together. Obviously that pattern's in a different key to here, so let's make a new one. Again, to clear, I just go function, clear all, and that's really nice because it's the same actually on all the Volcas. It's just function, and then the end key will clear your pattern. So again, I've got nothing in there now. So let's get a rhythm going. Keys version is actually in some ways the most powerful of the three because you can record a lot more automation using these if you want to. It's called motion sequence, so you can record lots of automation using most of these LEDs that light up here. Plus you also have an effect unit which you don't have in the other ones, so you can have, if you want some delay, so you can have some delay to your sound as well, so that gives it a kind of an extra dimension. So that's the three units. You've got the beats, you've got the bass, and you've got the keys as well. So I'm now going to move on to the MS-20 Mini, which is over here. So this, again, new product. This was launched back at NAMM show in January. We're just starting to see these first ones coming through now. And this is quite an incredible product because it's one of the first times I can remember that any company has actually reissued a classic piece of equipment. What we like to do at Korg is we actually listen to what people want, and there's a lot of clamour about, you know, analog equipment. Everyone's really into the analog thing at the moment. So, following on from our kind of monotrons, the little analog synths, and then the monotribe, we kind of had that in place to take that next big step and actually do an analog synth, which we've done with the MS-20 Mini. So as I said earlier, it's exactly the same as the original, 86% of the size. I think probably 99% of the components are all exactly the same inside, and it's all fully analog, as I said. But the beauty of it is, on the back, you've got MIDI and USB now. So from a connectivity point of view, it's pretty amazing. So what I'll do is I'll just talk you through what it does. So this is what we call a semi-modular synth, which means that this part of the panel has a fixed routing, but this part of the panel is completely modular, so we can repatch it, and that's what these little patch cables are for. You actually get 10 of these with it, so you can do your own kind of fancy patching and just experiment, which is what it's all about. So we've got a 2 oscillator synth, and we've got 2 filters, and then we've got the amp section as well. So I'll just take you through, first of all, some of the waveforms. So we'll start off with oscillator 1. So I'm going to I've turned off oscillator 2. So all we're hearing are these waveforms. So first of all, we've got a triangle. We've got a saw wave. We've got a square wave. What's nice about the square wave is you have a parameter on here called pulse width, which basically allows you to adjust the size of that square wave. So by default, it's a pure square wave. But I can change that by using this control and adjust the wave and actually make it shorter. And that's the sort of sound it makes. And eventually it squeezes it till there's nothing left and it just disappears. Especially when you play it in the lower register, it's got that real nice kind of like phase kind of quality to it. Then you've also got another waveform called white noise, so this is great for making sound effects and stuff like that, and drum sounds as well. So that's oscillator 1. Also in oscillator 1 you can change the pitch, as we had here. So that's shifted in octaves. So over to oscillator 2, so I'll just turn off oscillator 1, oscillator 2, saw wave again, square wave again, and also a pulse width square wave. You can't actually adjust the width of it manually in this one, so it's either fully open or sort of half there. So if you need to do that, you need to do that in oscillator 1. And then you've also got a ring mod, which also kind of sums them together to give that metallic sound. So there are your oscillators. In oscillator 2 you have different controls. You've actually got a pitch control. So if I turn on oscillator 1 again, so now we've got them both layered together. And I can adjust the pitch in tiny increments of oscillator 2. So again, you get that kind of detuned sound which we listened to over there. But you can also make intervals. So and it's really got that kind of very organic feel. It's almost like using an acoustic instrument where you actually just feel your way through and tune it to exactly how you want it to sound. You've got another parameter here called portamento, which again we heard over here. So this is glide. And you also have a master tune as well. So if you do need to tune it for any reason to a slightly different pitch, you can do that with a master tune. I'm going to leave mine on 0 for now. Then you've got the mixer, which you saw me using. So this just mixes the levels between these two oscillators. And then you're into the real heart of the MS-20, I think, which are the filters. So you've got a low-pass filter and a high-pass filter, which you can apply simultaneously, which it just by its very nature is quite rare. So if we start off with a low-pass, very, very smooth. You have a peak setting, so this is like the resonance. So you can really make it growl if you want to. And the high pass. So you can really use them at the same time to really sculpt some incredible different sounds. And also use it almost like a bandpass filter where you'll just scoop out the frequencies that you want to use. Okay, so let's just put that back to default, and I'll talk to you about the modulation generator. This is very, very powerful, and it's another word for LFO, basically, low frequency oscillator. Some of you might know that term by. It's a way to add some motion to your sound. So at the moment the sound's quite static, unless I change it myself. But what the modulation generator can do is you can introduce some motion for you, which you can control the speed of, and also the depth, and also the destination on your terms. So for instance, here we have the different send levels, so the 3 different things we have access to. So we've got the low pass, the high pass, and also the pitch. So that's quite a slow kind of opening and closing of the filter. You can also change the shape of the waveform of the modulation generator itself. So you can go from something with a very spiky attack, like a triangle wave, which is great for making percussive kind of sounds. But you can also change it to, say, a square wave, where it's more like a gate, where it's opening and closing. Great for your kind of dubstep stuff. And also, then you've got something like this, which is a full square wave, so that you can really hear that that's quite squelchy there. So that's the modulation generator, and you can apply the destination to be any of these 3 things. So it could be the high pass filter, so it's doing the same thing, just with a different destination. And it can also be applied to the pitch as well, if you want it to be. So you can use it for that kind of modulated kind of vibrato kind of effect, if you want to use it that way as well. You've also got an envelope. So the envelope generator 2 is automatically assigned to the way that the keys respond when you play the keyboard. So for instance, it's the ADSR, or the attack, decay, sustain and release of the sound. That's the attack. Release. Decay and sustain. So you can get that kind of real staccato, very short duration, and you can really change these envelopes exactly to shape the sound as you want. You can also apply them to the filter as well, should you want to. Okay, so over to the right side, this is where it starts to get really interesting, because you've got these patch cables. So as I said, it's a semi-modular synth. So everything I've done so far has been pre-patched. I can't really change the direction or anything. I can just apply the different parameters, and then it comes out the end as I want. What I can do with these is I can do really cool extra stuff. For instance, I can patch in things like the mod wheel. So all of these holes here on the patch bay correspond to something on the synth, whether it's this, whether it's these filters or the oscillators, whatever it is. So there's an output here for the modulation wheel, which is here. So what I'm going to do is take that out there and put it into the filter, the low pass filter, which is here. And then I can adjust the send level of how much I want this to affect the filter by changing this knob here. Now, it gives me that nice familiar interface for changing the filter by using the wheel. I've also got a button here, so I can do the same thing with the button if I want to turn on and off different effects. The button's got an output there, and I can just feed it into wherever I want. One of the most commonly asked for things on the MS-20 is a sample and hold effect, And this is a kind of cyclic changing sound, which is clocked to the LFO to allow you to open and close the filter at set rates, and also the pitch. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to take the pink noise, because it has a noise generator here. I'm going to go into the sample and hold. I'm going to go out of there and into total, which means I can send it to either pitch, high pass or low pass filters. But I also need to give it a clock, so I'm going to take a modulation generator, which is this section, an output of that, and put it into the sample and hold. So now I can set the amount that I want to change here. So that's a kind of random pitch effect now it's creating. And the more that I open up that knob, the wider the pitch variation. What's really cool is you can do the same thing for the filter, so I'm going to turn on the filter one. Yeah, that kind of nice percussive sound. So I can actually apply all of these three things at the same time just by patching it in this way. So that's another really cool thing about the MS-20. Finally, to open up the kind of floodgates of creativity even more, you've got an external input. So you can plug into this bottom section anything you want via this signal in. That could be a microphone, it could be a guitar, it could be a phone, it could be a pair of decks, it could be a computer, it could be anything. In you go, and then you can route it either straight to the output if you just want to use it as a mixer, but you can also patch it straight back into the synth as well, so you can send it through all these amazing effects I've just been showing you, such as the filters, the LFOs as well. So that is the MS-20 Mini. Hope you've enjoyed this webcast. I've been showing you the Volca Beats, the bass and the keys, all middied up to my Korg XL Plus here, and of course the MS-20 Mini. So thanks for tuning in. If you want to check out any of this stuff, check the landing page of Scan Pro Audio, and they'll be on there, so I'm told. So thanks for listening.
Okay, we have got a question from the chat room.
Okay, far away.
It's about the Volcas. So when you were showing the keys,
yeah.
The chap says, so when he wants a square wave, which apparently he will a lot, can he only play monophonically in the poly ring mode?
No, you can play three parts in the poly ring. There's two ring modulators. The unison ring, which allows you to just play one note, which basically sums all the three oscillators into one. But the poly ring mode, you can play three notes at once.
Right.
So hopefully that answers the question. Yeah. I can think of one, yeah. Scan, possibly.
Splendid.
Yes, if you're on the landing page, come and check out all the stuff just below the player, which we can't mention exactly what it is, but I would thoroughly encourage you to go and have a look. Thank you very much to Luke for this.
And titles?
And let's go to titles.
Thanks very much.
Come backwards. So finally, thanks again for watching. A big thanks to Luke and his wonderful collection of Korg machinery. Next week, something a bit different. Tom's going on the road. We've got a Native Instruments webcast, but it's coming live from Eurogamer Expo down in London. Tom's going to be handling that all by himself, so we wish him luck and all who sail in him. Until next week, thank you for watching. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.